On the features of the femur and the patella. I'll start with the patella since it's simple, right? Obviously, this is a patella. Remember that a patella is technically classified as a sesamoid bone, which means it grows within a tendon. So there's only two real structures to identify in a patella. As you can see, this side comes to more of a point where this side is broad. The broad side is your base, which is the superior portion, and the apex is the bottom kind of rounded portion. This patella would be found in what we call the quadriceps tendon, or also called the patellar tendon. So it grows within that quadriceps or patellar tendon. So moving to the features for the femur. Remember, femur is the longest, strongest bone in the human body, and we're gonna start at the top end and work our way distal. So this feature right here, we're gonna go at the head of the femur. At the end of the head, you see this little depression area right here called the fovea. And then you're going to have this area, which is the neck. So just like your head is on your neck, the bone femur head is on the bone femur neck. Then you have the difference to tell right from left. So the two things I would encourage you to use as right for left tools for the femur is the head of the femur should point in or medially. And if we look at the distal end of the femur, we notice this feature down here where it has a very deep recession compared to this side, which does not. This is the posterior side of the femur, and this is called the intercondylar fossa. So the intercondylar fossa has to point posterior and the head has to point medially. So for me, this would have to be a left femur for this to go medially and the intercondylar fossa to point posteriorly. On the posterior surface of the femur, you have two giant features on the proximal end. You have the greater trochanter, which is here, and you have the lesser trochanter, which is here. Connecting them on this posterior side, so again, if I'm moving from here to here, this whole ridge area, this is called the intertrochanteric crest. In the middle of the intertrochanteric crest, you can see a little bump right here, and this is called your quadrate tubercle. So intertrochanteric crest connects posteriorly the greater to lesser trochanter. In the middle, we have this quadrate tubercle. This little space behind the greater trochanter, so where I'm putting my finger here, that's called the trochanteric fossa. Okay, so the intertrochanteric crest is on the posterior side, trochanteric fossa is the space behind the trochanters. Then you're going to continue right here on the posterior side, and notice we have this area right here that's roughened. That's your gluteal tuberosity. So gluteal tuberosity. This sort of bony looking vein that's coming up, the posterior shaft of the bone. So again, this is the shaft or the body, also called the diaphysis. This little bone vein looking structure coming up, this is called linea aspera. Linea aspera. And if you look very closely, and it might be hard to tell on video, but there's a branch that happens right here. So you're going to get one branch that continues and comes right up here to the lesser trochanter. This is called your pectineal line. And you're going to get another line which started on the anterior surface. So this line right here, this is called your intertrochanteric line. And that's going to wrap around the bone. So we see it coming around right here. This forms the spiral line, which then becomes, again, the linea aspera. So the intertrochanteric line curves around, forming the spiral line, which then becomes the linea aspera. Now, on the lower end of things, you're going to have the medial and lateral condyle. Remember that the medial condyle is always on the same side as the head. So medial condyle, same side as the head, lateral condyle. Then this would be my medial epicondyle and my lateral epicondyle. On the top or superior surface of my medial epicondyle, you will see this little tiny bump right there, and that is called my adductor, ADD, tubercle. So the adductor tubercle, and think this is the medial side of the thigh, all of my medial adduction muscles are going to attach in this region. Again, then you have the intercondylar fossa. Above it, you have this little depression area. This is your popliteal fossa here. Going to the front side, here's the articular surface for the patella. And again, that means where the patella sits and articulates. And then just above it, you can barely see these tiny little dots in there. Those are what we call the nutrient foramina. So the nutrient foramina are those tiny little holes. So that is the patella and the femur.